Fyodor Dostoevsky sat in his small, cluttered apartment in St. Petersburg, staring out the frost-covered window. The streets below were silent, shrouded in the dim light of a Russian winter evening. The year was 1864, and Dostoevsky, at 43, was grappling with the many scars of his turbulent life. As he sat at his desk, quill in hand, he reflected on the strange, winding path that had brought him here. A path shaped by tragedy, political turmoil, imprisonment, and a restless search for meaning. Born in 1821 to a strict and domineering father and a gentle mother, Dostoevsky had known hardship from an early age. His father, a military doctor, was harsh and often distant, while his mother's death when he was just 15 left a deep wound. It was perhaps this early brush with sorrow that first ignited Dostoevsky's fascination with the darker aspects of the human soul. His early years as a writer had shown promise. His first novel, Poor Folk, published when he was only 24, was hailed as a masterpiece of Russian realism, a compassionate portrayal of the struggles of the impoverished. But just as his literary career began to bloom, Dostoevsky's life took a sharp turn. In 1849 he was arrested for participating in a radical intellectual circle that discussed banned political texts. For his involvement, Dostoevsky was sentenced to death by firing squad. On the day of his execution, he and his fellow prisoners were led to a courtyard, their eyes blindfolded, and placed in front of the soldiers. Just as the guns were raised, a messenger arrived with a pardon from the Tsar. The execution had been a cruel form of psychological punishment, but the experience left Dostoevsky forever changed. He had looked death in the face and survived. This moment would later echo through his work, particularly in The Idiot, where he explored the inner world of a man deeply affected by the terror of imminent death. Dostoevsky was sent to a Siberian labor camp, where he spent 4 grueling years among the most hardened criminals. He slept on cold wooden planks, suffered beatings, and endured relentless manual labor. But it was here, amidst the bleakness of Siberian winters and the cruelty of his guards, that Dostoevsky's Christian faith was reborn. His time in prison made him acutely aware of the capacity for both evil and redemption in the human heart. It was in this crucible that his most profound philosophical ideas began to take shape. When Dostoevsky returned to St. Petersburg in 1859, he was a man marked by suffering but also filled with a deep understanding of the complexities of the human condition. His later works would delve into the moral and psychological struggles of his characters, exploring questions of free will, faith, suffering, and redemption. But life after prison was no less difficult. Dostoevsky struggled with crippling debt, partly due to his addiction to gambling which he couldn't seem to control. There were nights when he would sit at the roulette table for hours, watching his last ruble disappear, only to leave the casino penniless. This addiction, combined with his perpetual financial troubles, haunted him for years. It also fueled the creation of some of his most famous works, including The Gambler, a novel drawn from his own experiences of obsession and loss. In 1864, Dostoevsky faced another personal tragedy, the death of his beloved wife, Maria, followed soon after by the death of his brother Mikhail. Overcome with grief, Dostoevsky threw himself into his writing. His pain, his questioning of God's justice, and his meditations on the nature of suffering all poured into his novels. Crime and Punishment, perhaps his most famous work, emerged from this period. In it, Dostoevsky told the story of Raskolnikov, a young man who believes himself above moral law and commits murder, only to be consumed by guilt and the search for redemption. As the years passed, Dostoevsky continued to produce some of the greatest works of literature the world had ever seen. In the Brothers Karamazov, he wrestled with questions of faith and doubt, presenting characters that embodied the conflict between rationalism and spirituality. In The Idiot, he depicted a man of pure goodness in a world that could not understand or accept him. Despite his lifelong struggles, Dostoevsky's legacy as a writer and thinker only grew. He became a master of exploring the depths of the human soul, and his novels continue to resonate with readers around the world, offering profound insights into the nature of existence, morality, and the search for meaning. Fyodor Dostoevsky died in 1881, but his works endure as timeless testaments to the complexity and beauty of the human spirit. In his lifetime he had known suffering, despair, and poverty, but through it all, he had also known the power of redemption and hope. He had transformed his own inner turmoil into some of the most powerful and thought-provoking literature the world has ever known. As the cold Russian wind howled outside his window, Dostoevsky knew that his greatest legacy would be the truths he had wrested from the chaos of his own life. The understanding that in suffering, there is the potential for salvation, and in darkness, the faintest glimmer of light can shine through.